Ready to get your buzz on? Sports Buzz is here to take all calls and answer all questions about your favorite team, coach, or player, local, regional, and national. Sports Buzz, taking calls and kicking game.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday Sports Buzz presented by livingforless.org, Louisville's original live TV sports talk show. We're here every Sunday night, 11 to 12. Our number, 964-2121, the Oxmoor Ford Lincoln Buzz line. We want to hear from you. I'm your host, Greg Brom, and tonight, Locke is on the clock.
Woo, baby.
Lachlan McClain, Sports Talk 84 host, weeknight 7 to 9. Locke, thanks again for coming in.
It is my pleasure. Good to see you guys are spiffing up the joint. You can keep me for an hour. We're going to chill on these couches.
I
like
know what you like to do on Sunday nights, so I figured I'd just bring the couch in and let you do what you normally do.
That's it.
We get comfortable. We're going to relax, talk sports. And we're going to open up with, surprise, surprise, basketball.
You think? Basketball?
Yes,
Really?
basketball.
In January in Louisville?
In January in Louisville, we're talking basketball, and it looks like the Louisville Cardinals are going to go into their game tomorrow night as the #1 ranked team in the country. Duke goes down, Michigan goes down, Louisville crushes South Florida after crushing Seton Hall earlier in the week. So Louisville will be ranked #1, I think for only the second time ever. They're ranked #1, but Locke, are they the best team in the country?
Boy, I mean, all year I have been saying I like Indiana just by this much over Louisville, and I'm still going to hold to that, but the Cardinals are making a really compelling case. The way they've been playing lately, the depth that they have, and Rick's got them, he's got them believing. And they are still, everyone keeps talking, and I'm sure we'll get into Kentucky and the upside and blah, blah, blah. There's still a lot of growth on this Louisville team. I still don't think you're seeing Kevin Ware at his best. I still don't think you're seeing Luke Hancock at his best. And Gorgie is, I mean, he's pretty close now, but I mean, this is still a team that can get even better. So it
Blackshear, I mean, he's kind of not even a factor.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, so there's three guys right there who they could get better still. So it is a really intriguing time to be a Louisville fan, because if they're not the best, and if I'm going to say Indiana, it's this close.
And Indiana has a very talented roster, and there's some, I mean, they have great offensive ability.
Yeah.
The reason I give Louisville the slight edge is because Louisville's smothering defense, it makes you look bad. I mean, it makes a good offensive team will struggle, I think. Any good offensive team will struggle against that Louisville defense. I like Louisville because of that. I just think whoever they play, they'll make them look ugly offensively. And Louisville now has such a wider margin of error.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a great
they can
point.
play bad, and somebody cannot show up, and they still win.
You saw that against Seton Hall. I mean, they didn't have Shane Bohannon, and Russ Smith didn't play, always 2 for 11 from the field. And that was their B-C game. And look at the final score, and they ended up winning by 15. The margin of error is a great way to look at it. The thing that would worry me if I were Louisville is, on one hand, it's a great thing that they get so many points off transition baskets and defensive steals. On the other hand, if you play a team with good guards who value the ball, they don't get those points, and then all of a sudden Louisville in a half-court offense. And I think you saw that a little bit against Kentucky. When Ryan Harrow wasn't turning the ball over, all of a sudden, where's Louisville, where are the points going to come from? And Indiana guards with Hulls and Farrell, and they can have Oladipo handle a little bit. I mean, Watford. I mean, they have guys, Sheehy, they have guys who can handle the ball. But if Louisville's turning people over, then without a doubt, I agree, they're the best team in the country, because it adds an element of offense to their game that they've been lacking.
I think you saw that Duke didn't turn the ball over. When Louisville played Duke, they did take care of the ball.
Yeah.
And Louisville didn't get as many of those transition points, which you're right. Louisville is not skilled enough offensively to have to rely on half-court game to score all the time. I mean, you saw it yesterday. I mean, they were 3 of 17 from the three-point line. They shot 38%. They just played such great defense.
Oh, yeah, that was lights
That
out.
38% gave you a 25-point victory.
And how about, I mean, and they gave up, 38, right? And it's the second time this year they've done that, because College of Charleston, the same thing. And, you look at that. That's pretty, now some of that was tempo-related, and South Florida was happy to burn some clock. But I'm sorry, if you're going in 2 games on the year and you're giving up under 40 points, you're doing something right. They were. It's not always pretty. I mean, that's the one thing. That's another reason I like Indiana. I like points. I'm always going to take offense over defense. It's not always pretty, but boy, when you get in an NCAA tournament, if Rick's able to really, kind of convince them to keep locking down, those are the type of things you can have not your best night and still win. And you're going to need that. You know, you 4 or 5 games to get to the Final Four, you're going to have one you're not clicking.
You are.
And, I mean,
you got to survive that
for
one.
Kentucky last year, it was the first round game they had against Western Kentucky for a half. I mean, that was a game. And then, you know, ultimately they pulled away. But you're going to have games like that.
Yeah, you are. And that's probably why Rick is driving down on the defense so hard.
Yes.
Even though they're playing great defense, he's like, we're playing terrible defense.
I agree.
He does that all the time. He did it. Shane Bohannon hurts his ankle. He's out 4 games. He came the first 5 minutes of the game, he was jumping out of the gym.
Yep.
He got about 5 rebounds. It's the best he's played close to all year.
I mean,
right after he's out for 4 games.
Rick is a phenomenal coach, but there's some things in life you just don't believe. A $3 bill and Rick Pitino on injuries. I mean, we all know it, so we all chuckle and go, Rick, whatever you say. Yeah, okay, Rick, yeah. A month and a half, we got you, Rick. We all know. I mean, you just take it with a grain of salt.
You know, you talked a little bit about Louisville's guard play and Russ Smith and Peyton Siva. And Russ really has had a couple of off nights.
He hasn't shot well.
Hasn't shot well, but you know what, Doc? I think that he is the most indispensable player on the team. They can actually win with anybody else going down for a game, for a stretch. I think if Russ Smith is not on the court, Louisville offensively will go through, during the course of the game, there will be a stretch of no offense. That now Russ is a slump buster.
Yep.
You can't score. All of a sudden, Russ, he has no conscience. He's not worried about that. He'll find a way to. Russ is the most indispensable player, in my opinion.
No, I think you're absolutely right, because it's that aggression. And when Louisville's, it's aggression defensively, which you like. But even if they get in the half court and they've gone 4, 5, 6 possessions in a row, and guys that get too content to just kind of pass it around the perimeter, or Peyton will do a drive-through and then, you know, come back out. Russ Smith just like, look, okay, I'm going to go get fouled now. You know, I'm going to put something up there. He's incredible, a knack for drawing fouls, because guys, still to this day, they can't believe, well, he's not going to try and get a shot up in that little hole, and he's like, oh, yeah, I am, and then they go, and then he gets a lot. It's funny, some of his stats you look, and Russ Smith only has, 11 points, and there's 3 minutes left in the game, and then his final box score, he's got 21, because he's gotten a lot. I mean, it's his sense of aggression. I'm with you, Greg, that he has a mindset that he's not going to let them get passive. And if they didn't have that, I don't know who else on the team would be aggressive. Shane Bohannon would be happy to take the shots. I think he'd be your next best choice, but I don't think he's as good at drawing contact, and he's certainly not as good at the free throw line.
Let's talk a bit about Kentucky.
Yeah.
Before we go to break, we'll talk more about them in our next segment. But, they lose out at Rupp Arena again. I know Elston Turner went for 40 points. He was out of his mind. But, what's wrong with UK, and how do they fix it?
Well, what's wrong? It's a simple answer. Every other Calipari team has had some kind of experienced senior leader who knew the system. And people keep talking about one-and-dones. The previous Calipari years have not been a test of the one-and-done mentality. This is a test of the one-and-done mentality, because there's just no one there who's got experience. And the 2 most experienced guys are Mays and Wilcher. And Wilcher, his confidence has been shattered. I mean, I'll be shocked if he's at UK next year, because it's just not working out. The fans have turned on him, and so he can't lead. And Mays can't hit a shot, so he can't lead. So then who's a leader on that team? Now, Ryan, and they were soft at the start of the year. Harrow's getting tougher, and I'm more impressed by him probably than anyone on that team. But people like to obviously, you never compare Kentucky to last year. That would be ridiculous. But even to 2 years ago, a team that lost 6 games in the SEC, that team had Harrelson, had Miller, had guys. A lot. This team lacks leadership. Simple thing to say, but they need it.
All right, we're taking your calls. 964-2121. Lachlan McLean is here with us tonight. Come back, we're going to talk more about the Cards, the Cats, and NFL playoffs. This is the Sunday Sports Buzz presented by livingforless.org.
Sports Buzz will return after these messages from our sponsors.
All right, we're back with Lachlan McLean. I'm Greg Brom. The Sunday Sports Buzz presented by livingforless.org and our number 964-2121. We've been talking about the Cards and the Cats. Going in different directions right now. Louisville riding high, probably going to be ranked number 1 in both polls. I would think tomorrow. Indiana's close probably, but I think they're ranked ahead of them now.
Well, if Indiana had held on to that, whatever it was, 25-point lead against Minnesota, then I think maybe they could have impressed people enough to jump over Louisville. But the way Minnesota was able to make that comeback and Indiana barely holds on, and the way Louisville just pounded, I think the Cards, and they should be. They absolutely, and it doesn't mean anything, but they're right on track to be a 1 seed.
I was going to say,
that's
1 seed, that's the goal.
That's the goal.
Because, look, if they're a 1 seed, Locke, they're going to play the first round in Rupp Arena.
Yep.
They're going to play the regional in Indianapolis.
Yep.
I mean, you can't have a better path to the Final Four. You go back to, if they get back to Indy, you're going to make amends for the loss you had there. And I mean, it sets up perfectly for them if they can get that 1 seed.
Yeah, and again, if you're a 1 seed, everyone talks about you have to win 4 games to make the Final Four. If you're a 1 seed, you're going to win against the 16. I mean, we just know that. You're 3 games from the Final Four, and like you say, and they'll have fans at all those games. It really does. They can't afford injuries. You got to say that with Louisville basketball every year. You were just talking about how indispensable Russ Smith is, or if Shane Bohannon would be lost for a long time, or Peyton Seaver, or Gorgie.
Gorgie for a long time would hurt a title
They
run.
can't. Yeah, they can't have that. But it's all tracking for them right now.
All right, Kentucky. Now let's look at them. I think they're around 10-5, something like that. But
yeah,
if the tournament selection was today, would they even be in?
No, I don't think you could put them in today. I think by the end of the year, because their jersey says Kentucky, they could have 12 or 13 losses. And I mean, they could be, barely above 500. And the defending champ with Kentucky on their front, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt that most teams wouldn't get. But their resume is going to be horrible. Unless they pull off a serious upset against Florida or Missouri, they're going to have no marquee wins at all. I mean, it's just
and I'm surprised they lost to A&M. But looking at the SEC schedule, though, you're right. No quality wins, but they're going to be like 12-4.
Yeah, exactly.
11-5 because of that schedule. And just on paper, it'll look. Unless you dig into the numbers, they'll get in. I don't even think they'll be a bubble. I think where do you think they'll be seated?
I mean, again, although Texas A&M, again, they lost at home to Southern. I mean, Elston Turner had the game of his life, and that dude was it was sick how good he was. It was fun to watch. Even the UK fans had to applaud. But they're going to be whatever it is, 21-9, 22-10, and that gets them a 7 seed, 7 or 6, So I don't think bubble. I think that's ridiculous. But if that shot against Vandy goes down that 3, and they lose that game in A&M, then I think maybe you start panicking.
They're fragile. Every game is a little bit wobbly.
They're not in right now, but there are too many easy games left on their schedule where they're having massive talent edge, and regardless of the lack of leadership or lack of toughness or lack of depth or lack of confidence, there are just too many games that they can't help but win because the SEC just stinks on ice.
Oh, that Vandy game. Oh, Vandy is terrible.
That league is just terrible. It's just
they were terrible. But you know what? Look, they got 4 lottery picks, and you say, well, they'll come together like 2011 did, but I don't really see it being much of a threat, even if it comes together a little bit better. I don't see the same. We talked about the intangibles of the Harrelson team. I don't see it.
I don't either. And it's funny, on my show, I've been a seller on Kentucky much more than a buyer all year, and people kept saying, going into this week, well, of course Kentucky should be in the top 25, and I kept saying, why? Based on what? Based on 2 close losses? That gets you in the top 25 now? People just keep looking at their draft pick projection instead of their actual performance, and they could be drafted. Look, if the NBA still wants to draft Alex Poythress second after what they've seen this year, that tells you all you need to know about the NBA. Yeah. They're absolutely moronic when they draft. I mean, they draft people like Darko and these other scrubs because they love potential, and they just ignore the fact that the guys can't get it done. If you draft Alex Poythress, and I'm sure he's a good kid. I don't mean to demean him personally, but if that guy can't play in the SEC, why would he be ready to play in the NBA? And yet Kentucky fans, they keep thinking that Cal's going to flip a switch and they're going to turn on a magic button, and this team at the end of the year will do what they did 2 years ago. But the point that they need to start realizing is that team 2 years ago was a lot better and had leadership.
DeAndre Liggins.
DeAndre Liggins and Miller and Josh Harrelson. Who on this team is playing that role where he's going all out? Now, Noel's going all out, but even that team 2 years ago, and I keep making this point, they ended up in the Final Four in the first round against Princeton. That was a tie game with 30 seconds left against a team that had no scholarship players. That team, yeah, they got to the Final Four, but they were also one shot away from being first round out. So if you're going to compare it to 2 years ago, that's not automatic. I think Kentucky, it's not time to panic. They're in the field. It's all good, but you need to start realizing that it's not your birthright to be in the Sweet 16 every year just because you wear that blue jersey.
Now, they do have 4 first-round NBA picks, according to the projections. Now, Louisville was kind of – Louisville, you don't see any names pop up on any of the draft boards.
Well, Russ Smith has started to creep in as a late first-rounder on some of the boards.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Gorgie doesn't show up on any of the boards. Do you think, looking at this year's run, I already hear Louisville fans, which I'm like, don't look, don't get the Kentucky syndrome. Start looking ahead to the.
Yes.
They're looking ahead to next year. This will be a 2 championships in a row, 2-year run. Do you see any of these guys leaving? It
is intriguing because everyone has just given next year to Kentucky and Duke with their recruiting classes, and like hold the phone. If all they lose is Siva and Van Treese, then I think Louisville has to be right there with those teams. But Rick has already said that he's going to allow Shane to test the waters, and depending on what Shane does for the rest of the year, I think he's at least possible. You never know with Wayne Blackshear if he wants, all the guys that he was at that McDonald's game with, they're all now getting paid to play pro basketball, and you just wonder if Wayne. No, I'm not. No, I haven't. But Terrence Jennings left, for no reason. Whoever saw that coming? So I think with Louisville, they should. Gorgie, I believe, that he'll stay because an education is important to him. But then someone said to me, you know what else is important? If he can make money for his impoverished people back in Senegal. So there's a lot of uncertainty there. If I'm a Louisville fan, just enjoy this year, get the most of it, and then if you get everyone back, then you can start flapping your gums because next year could be pretty darn good, too.
Yeah. The one guy that I think maybe if he is a first-round pick or draftable or projected to be drafted is Russ. If Russ, he probably should go. Because are you going to play better than you played this year?
You're right.
If he does think he's going to get drafted, that would probably be a wise move.
Plus, it's such a weak draft for guards anyway that, if he can show a little bit of more point guard skills, if he gets that opportunity and convince the NBA folks, he would be a guy. But even then, they seem to be really intrigued by Rozier and Jones, the guards they have, and Gill coming in. Yeah. So, I mean, it's rare that it's a rare time for Louisville to really be. They're ahead of Kentucky right now. It's the first time since Cal got to Lexington that Louisville can say, without a doubt, they're the better team right now, and it's not a sure thing that Kentucky's going to be better next year.
All right, but Bird is the word. Bird is with us on the Oxmoor Ford Lincoln Buzz line. Hey, Bird. Bird, you with us? All right, I think we lost Bird, but our number, 964-2121, 964-2121. I know you guys take all the shots at Lachlan Monday through Friday, but now you got him. You can look him right in the eye, right in the TV screen, and tell him everything you've been meaning to tell him throughout the week.
Well, yeah, keep it G-rated. It's a family show.
Absolutely, absolutely. Give us a call. We're going to be back in a moment. The Sunday Sports Buzz presented by livingforless.org.
Sports Buzz will return after these messages from our sponsors.
Welcome back. The Sunday Sports Buzz presented by livingforless.org. If you like the Sunday Sports Buzz, make sure you catch Mason and Myers in the morning. I call in Tuesdays and Fridays, brought to you by Insuramax. So I rap with Rashawn and Jeff Mason about cards and cats. Chad now and Hennessy over Insuramax, 479-4085. Home Life and Auto, those guys will take care of you. They're great Trinity alumni like myself. And they'll even take care of the St. X people out there, too. So give them a call. And with me tonight, Lachlan McLean. And we have...
I'm not supposed to bring up the Trinity St. X basketball game, I guess.
I was there. I tell you what, St. X, they were due.
They
played great defense. Trinity could not hit a basket.
I was reading the numbers. It did not look like an offensive explosion.
No, barely got 4. It was like South Florida.
Yes,
the South Florida playing offense on Friday night. But St. X pulled the win out, but I tell you what, Trinity has some math. Trinity's going to... The LIT this week, Ballard, Trinity. Those are the two. That's my call right there in the final, Ballard and Trinity and LIT. Let's go to, on the Oxmoor Ford Lincoln Buzz line. We got full lines, but we want to hear from you, so give us a call. We got Big Money up.
What's up, fellas?
What's up, Big Money?
Y'all making some good points. I'm pulling for both the guys around here. I mean, it's just wild. Louisville's finally feeling good again, and that's good for the program. But it's wild because there was after Rick took Kentucky to that Final 8 against Duke, 93, 94, and 95. They were ranked right up there, and they still didn't cut through and get it done. So. This is going to be a fun run this year. I think we need to all get behind Louisville, but not take for granted just because you rank something that you can actually make it through the tournament, because it was hard, man. I mean, I was pulling for Kentucky hard back then, and 94, 93, 94, 95. It was like, damn. So go Cards, go Cats, and good job, fellas.
Well, I'll tell you, that's probably it's amazing how quick Cal's done it, because it did take Rick. Of course, he was coming from probation.
Yeah.
But it took him 8 years to actually cut the nets. He got there, got close, got to the Final Four. But that's true. The tournament's so random. One bad game and you're done.
And a lot of years, I mean, being a number 1 seed, I mean, it's normally the 1 or 2 seeds are going to make the Final Four, but it's not a sure thing. I mean, you look at, just if you went on to go far back when Louisville was the number 1 overall seed, and you thought for sure when they were playing that Michigan State team, it was just going to be a formality that they were going to the Final Four, and lo and behold, so.
Well, that's why I set the bar at Final Four. Not title.
I'm with you totally.
Final Four is great year. Great year. Even though for this team, that's probably anything less than that is disappointment. But Final Four, if you happen to win the title after you get there, that's icing on the cake.
Yeah, that's why I think last year, I mean, it was just wonderful for Louisville, and I think this year, it's college basketball is the one sport, and it's weird. I mean, you define success by being in the Final Four. In the NFL, just because you've made the NFC Championship, that doesn't mean your year's a success, but for whatever reason, college sports, and I think because of the random nature of it, because it's just so kind of filled with upsets and fluky, if you get there, then you've accomplished something. And then beyond that, unless you're Kentucky like last year, and you just have so much more talent than everyone else that it's almost ridiculous that someone should be within single digits of you. But, but it's fun. It's a good time for Louisville fans.
Oh,
it really
man,
is.
can it get it really pinch yourself?
No, if you're
I don't
a
know for
Cardinal fan.
Louisville if it can get much better than it's been the last month.
No.
Let's go with Troy.
Hey, how you doing tonight, Greg?
Doing great.
I really enjoy your show. Hope things are going good for you out here at Thomas Nelson. I live out here in Bardstown. And
it's going good. Really enjoying it.
I'm just wanting an opinion of yours. I'm really thankful to see Louisville playing good and going to be ranked number 1 tomorrow. But I feel like this year that college basketball as a whole is down a little bit. I've been watching a lot of ball, and I really don't see a whole lot of real good teams. But I just want to know what you thought maybe your Final Four picks would be right now, and I'll get off here and really enjoy your show.
Well, thank you very much, and keep tuning in, keep calling in. College basketball down. I can see it's been down. I mean, it's been down. And here we came in the year with Louisville, Indiana, Kentucky. We're all the big three. Kentucky's kind of fallen by the wayside. But my Final Four, I'd say Louisville. I'm going to say Duke. because they're going to get a 1 seed. They're going to get an easy path.
Of course they are.
They're going to get the easiest path to the Final Four,
yeah.
of course.
They'll never leave the state of North Carolina.
IU, I think Indiana's going to get there this year. And a fourth team, I tell you what, I think a sleeper. There's going to be a sleeper. There's going to be somebody off the path. But I don't even have a pick for the
I know, that's the thing. It's hard to think back beyond. As far as college basketball being down, yes. It's down as far as there's no super great team. He said that there's not a lot of good teams. Frankly, there's a boatload of good teams. There's no super elite team. I think by the end of the year, if Louisville's as good as we think they're capable of being in Indiana, if they only have 1 or 2 conference losses each, they have the ability, and Duke perhaps in the ACC, to kind of create some separation. But I'll never pick Duke for the Final Four. It's just I think I die. So I'm going with Louisville, Indiana. I'm going to take Syracuse. I was looking at their numbers the other day. They're allowing people to shoot 26% from 3. And how do you get upset in the tournament? Somebody gets hot from outside and hits a bunch of threes. If you're not going to let people score from 3, I'm going to like your chances. And I'm going to take Michigan because of their guard play.
They have good guard
with
play.
Burke. So
a little bit
that's my list for now. But
this
this is the perfect year, honestly, when you can see there'll be a couple 1 seeds make it, but some 3s and some 4s kind of sneak in because there's not a lot of separation in that top 25.
The team that popped in my head was Butler. It just popped in my head because Brad Stevens, and he's been there before, and now they have Rodney Clark, and they kind of shoot like you need to, and they're perennially the sleeper now. I mean, I think Louisville, Indiana, and Duke are prohibitive favorites.
At this juncture,
to get there.
Yeah.
At this juncture.
Yeah.
Let's go to now. Bird's back. Birdman, he's not back? All right. What a tease this guy is. Okay, hey, when we come back, we've got the man, Handsome Jimmy, here to talk to Locke on the Sunday Sports Buzz presented by livingforless.org.
Sports Buzz will return after these messages from our sponsors.
All right, I'm a little bit worried to try this again. My man has stood me up twice. But Bird, I hear the infamous Bird. He exists, and he is on the line. So, Bird, you're up. You're not,
yeah, baby.
Bird, you're not allowed.
Woo!
You're not allowed to call in ever again. You gotta use a different name.
You need to get a new cell phone sponsor to get Bird a phone.
We're just gonna put him on the couch next to you next week.
There you go.
Locke. Let's go to Handsome. I know you're there.
Wearing his Peyton Siva jersey.
Handsome.
Greg and Locke, I got to tell you something. It can't happen to a better program than program up the road taking these A's. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I can't get any better than this. And I got to tell you something. You know, Locke, when you showed up tonight, I was listening to it, the people calling in, and they say, oh, well, the number 3 team, we almost beat them. They beat us by 3. You know, Locke, they played so over their head against us. They shot, 68% with 10 minutes to go in the second half. We had 3 of our best players with 4 fouls. We couldn't play defense. defense on them real good. You know, and I want to think about this. I didn't think they liked moral victories, but they really take that Louisville game as a moral victory. I really believe that, don't you, buddy? I really think Lockheed, Greg. They're going to lose 14-15 game, and he's going to make the tournament, and I'm going to go home smiling because we're going to win the tournament. Later, fellas.
There he is. He's absolutely right, by the way. I mean, Kentucky fans are living off a close loss to Louisville. I mean, how sad is your program in a way that's, I mean, you're Kentucky, and you're bragging. We only lost to Louisville by 3. And Kentucky fans don't want to hear it. And I'll give them, look, the free throw shooting was horrible, but the threes were dropping for them at an unprecedented rate. And don't fool yourself that Louisville foul trouble impacted that game in a huge way. I said after that game, they could play 10 times, and Louisville would win 9. And one of those 9 will be a 1-point Louisville win, and one of those 9 will be a 3-point Louisville win. But most of those 9 will be a Louisville double-digit win. So be happy, Kentucky, that you got the one where you lost by 3. But don't think you're in Louisville's range, because you're just not.
I'll tell you what, I had Steve Romines, our UK buddy, here a couple weeks ago, and I talked to him about moral victories. UK was not supposed to ever accept moral victories, and he said he didn't accept the moral victory, but he thought that the game was in doubt. I never once, as a Louisville fan, thought Louisville was going to lose that game. Even in the comebacks, they're coming back. They got within 2, but I'm like, you know what? Louisville's control this game.
Well, it got a little. I mean, again, I'm invested, but it got nerve-wracking just to watch for both sides when it was within a possession.
Kentucky got the lead, Louisville would then make the run and get the lead back. I just didn't feel in jeopardy.
Well, that's good confidence. Maybe you should have. But, but as you know now, it's just Kentucky. I mean, we don't want to keep harping on it. They lack leadership. Yeah. And again, we were talking off air, Poitras. The other thing that people have to remember about Kentucky next year, they're all bragging, we got this recruit and that recruit. Guess what? Alex Poitras was just as touted a recruit as all these guys they're bringing in next year. It is not an automatic sure thing that top 10 recruits play like top 10 players. And I know that Kentucky, they're scoffing at me already. Oh, no, but the Harrison twins, they're unlike anyone else, and Young and Randall, and we get Wiggins. And, fine, maybe you're right. Who's to not? Maybe they're all Anthony Davis, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. But maybe they're a Poitras, who's just, not that he's not may be a great player, it just doesn't happen right away. UK fans have gotten spoiled under Cal that A, they're always going to play their best at the end of the year. That's not a sure thing. And that every freshman is going to immediately assimilate to the college game. That's not a sure thing. And that's what they're finding out this year.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a little bit. He's got a little leeway because he did get it done last year. He's got plenty of leeway. If this doesn't work this year, I think the experiment continues.
Absolutely.
But it's tough, especially you take a bunch of stars.
Yes.
And then you try to put them together. Look at an all-star team.
But that's his gift. Normally, that's his gift. Is he gets guys to give up the ego. But the other thing, Greg, if indeed it doesn't work this year, and a lot of now, look, I mean, they're going to go. Poitras is going to go. Noel's going to go, and Goodwin. But boy, what if some of those do stay? Like no one thought Jones and Lamb were going to stay. Yeah. Then all of a sudden, you got serious logjam happening next year. And we were talking already. I just cannot imagine a scenario where Kyle Wiltshire wants to come back and play even fewer minutes than he's playing this year. So this could be some intrigue as far as to how their season plays out.
All right, let's go to Trudy up on the Oxmoor Ford Lincoln Buzz line. Hey, Trudy.
It's Prudy. Trudy with a P.
Prudy, all right.
Prudy, that's it. First off, I'd like to say, Greg, love the show. Lachlan, listen to you every night that I can, and I love your show. And I agree with pretty much everything you say. But let's go to the Cats. Born and raised Cat fan. But my thing is, a lot of my friends and I were talking, do you really see them playing as a team? Because we see a whole lot of individuals playing to say, hey, look at me, this is what I can do. Because Cal is a lot of those one and dones, and these freshmen are like, oh, I can do this and I can do that, and they're not playing as a team. And I think if you, like you said, no leadership, and you don't have leadership because you're not playing as a team. You're playing as individuals instead of a team. Yeah. So do you agree or disagree?
I mean, well, first off, we both appreciate the kind words. Thank you. Keep listening and watching and doing all those good things. But yeah, I don't think this is a selfish group. I just don't think they have all been so used to being the guy who has the ball and who's supposed to take every shot that they're having trouble figuring out when are they going to take it, when are they not. And you saw Poitras, everyone's like, be aggressive. And his answer to that was, I'm just going to run over people and get offensive fouls all day long. So, and the other thing with Kentucky is because they are so thin, they know deep down the bench, Cal can't use the bench as a motivating factor. These guys are going to get minutes whether they deserve them or not because they really only have a 7-man rotation, and he's now shown he doesn't want to play Wilcher anymore, so that's almost 6. He can't play Polson. So, I mean, you're down to basically 6. So I don't think of them as a selfish team, but I think the point that Prudy's making, they have not figured out yet the dynamic of how they all get theirs and it all works in the team flow.
If this does start to come together, who's going to be that galvanizing force out there? I kind of see Harrow could.
Yeah, Harrow and Noel are going to be the 2 guys that
yeah.
have to put this team on their back because Harrow, his game, I'll admit I was way off. I didn't think he had it, and he has just been lights out. And Noel, he's the guy that can lead the way effort-wise. And so if those 2 can provide the example, they can get Goodwin under a little control. And Poitras, I do think he'll figure out he'll be better by the end of the year. The question is, will it be enough? It's not. I'm not going to call it chemistry. There's just a weird vibe that this team. You can't go 2 points against Vandy and lose double digits at home to Texas A&M and tell me there's not something seriously going on.
Yeah, they're definitely, there's no sync. There's no sync in what they're doing. It's like they're figuring out their roles. We're watching it in action during the season where you would normally get maybe in the preseason or in a couple of years worth. They got to jam it into 1 year.
They got 16 conference games. I mean, 16 games is a lot of games, and a lot can change during that time. So we're not going to write them off, believe me. But they're clearly right now, they'll be
at 12-4 in the SEC.
Yeah.
I think they'll be 12-4, 11-5 at the worst.
Yes.
And so you'll have the feel. They'll have the feel that we're playing better.
That's the thing. And we talked about this. This schedule's so bad, you won't really know if they're making progress or not. It's going to be a question mark all the way to the end because they could have a lot of wins and that won't tell us a thing.
Yeah. All right. Our number 964-2121. Give us a call. We'll be right back. The Sunday Sports Buzz presented by livingforless.org.
Sports Buzz will return after these messages from our sponsors.
We hope you like our show every Sunday night, 11 o'clock. We also hope you listen to 1450, the Sports Buzz, throughout the week. Great programming. Cards, Cats, national program with Dan Patrick in the morning. You got The Freak. Of course, Mason Myers and Inside the Press Box with Nick Coffey from CardinalConnect.com. You got Larry Glover. So we run the gamut here at the Sports Buzz. 1450, and then you got our show here, Sunday nights, 11 o'clock. And, of course, with me tonight is the most objective sports talk show host in the town. And you know what? I absolutely agree with that.
Although Tony Vanetti was giving me the business, Lachlan McLean, I didn't let you
Oh,
finish the intro. He said, "You're not objective, Lachlan. You just hate everybody." And I was like, well, that's like, okay, splitting hairs, but yeah, I don't necessarily look for the bright side, but
I like listening to that, Locke. I really do think there is a play. It used to be that almost all sports journalism was objectivity was the base, but now it's gone to the other pendulum. You're advocating a side or a team. I like listening to your point of view because I know it's not tainted by either side.
I appreciate it. Well, and my reason is if you get praise from me, it's earned. That's why I go neutral because again, my philosophy is when you hear me say something good, it's genuine and legitimate, and I'm just not trying to curry favor because I'm a fan of one team or the other.
All right, before we get back to basketball, and we got a full line of callers, I want to talk a little bit about the best football weekend of the year, I think. It's divisional playoff round. We had 4 games. 2 of them were magnificent, close, nail-biting games. But I think the story of the weekend to me was Denver with Peyton Manning. And Peyton loses a first-round game, had the #1 seed, had a home game. For the 8th time in his career, he's out the first game of the playoffs. He's won 1 Super Bowl. He's my favorite player. It hurt me part of watching that game yesterday because I'm like, come on. At various points, both in coaching decisions and just Peyton. I mean, even me, I know he had a great year, but he looked like he was throwing marshmallows out there. A couple of throws that guys had to run up to catch, and a Farvian interception at the end of the game. Did yesterday damage Peyton's mystique?
Absolutely. I think you're right. That is the #1 angle to come out of this is the Peyton Manning legacy is being fundamentally altered. And it's funny that you use the word Farvian because it's the same thing. Brett Favre, 3 or 4 years before the end of his career, one of the top 3 quarterbacks of all time. And by the time it ended and all the mistakes he made and all the drama and all that stuff, you're lucky if anyone talks about him as a top 5 guy. I can remember when Peyton was going into the Super Bowl, going in against the Saints, and he already had the one against the Bears, and you said if he wins that Super Bowl against the Saints, he had a very legitimate case to be the best quarterback in the history of the NFL. And then he loses that, and then he keeps losing first-round games. And now, again, if you're making a list of the top 5, does Peyton Manning show up on it? I thought that stat, 8 one-and-dones, is unbelievable for a guy of his stature. And the way that game ended, you get 2 special teams touchdowns at home, and you can't win. I mean, that's a pretty damning reflection.
Well, and you talked about is Peyton, before the game I'm thinking, okay, at Denver, you've got home field advantage. He might win a couple Super Bowls here at the end of the career, and now he's the greatest quarterback of all time. And now you're looking at it, and you're wondering if he's been overrated all these years, and you do start to is he overrated? Is what he's done in football been overrated?
Well, I mean, it depends on how much people put into playoff wins. I've always said that wins in football, it's much more team. The quarterback gets way too much credit. He gets way too much blame. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl, and Vince Ferragamo went to one. I mean, there's guys, and you're like, really? So in a team concept, I think the quarterback gets too much blame. So I'm still getting Dan Marino never won one. So he's clearly one of the top 10 of all time. I think he's right in there, borderline top 5. I'm just amazed. I mean, there really was a time he was thought he could be the best to ever play the game. But so it's being declined, but he's still got, I guess, a chance to reclaim it. That's how big these games can be. You can get it back next year.
Yeah, and I don't think he's overrated because I actually think Peyton is so good. He's so smart. It's actually his mind more than his arm or anything else that he's elevated lesser talent. Watching that game yesterday, you looked at the individual athletes and players. Baltimore had better players. I mean, they couldn't cover. It was Champ Bailey. Couldn't cover those Baltimore receivers. Look at Baltimore's skill players and look at Denver's. I mean, maybe it's Peyton that's elevated this lesser talent. But Tim Tebow won a playoff game.
I mean,
Tim Tebow won a playoff game at home.
Well, I tell you, the last word, I know you got to get callers, but the weirdest thing about the way that game ended is it was a Peyton Manning mental mistake for making that throw. That's one thing you don't think he's going to do. The arm strength may be going at the tail end of the career, and he never had much foot speed and everything else. But the one thing you could count on, he wasn't going to cost you the game with his head, and he did with that.
That looked a little bit like a desperate throw. And I don't know what Denver's doing. 30 seconds left, 2 timeouts, and you got Peyton Manning. You kneel on the ball. Look what Atlanta did today in about 20 seconds and won the game after they collapsed.
You're a mile high up there, so you can kick one legitimately from 65 yards. John Fox and I was teasing Greg during the break. They get in that coaching mentality.
Yeah.
Y'all coaches not to lose.
I got to
instead of
train
to win.
myself. I got to keep
Coach
telling
to win.
myself that.
Coach to win.
I got to keep telling myself that. Okay, let's go to our callers. William, you're first up on the Oxmoor Ford Lincoln Buzz line.
Oh, yes, but Happy New Year to both of y'all anyway.
Thank you.
What I want to talk to you about this, the ball players, when they feel like that they have a fan base backing them 100%, that means a whole lot to the ball players, regardless of whether they have a whole lot of talent or not. Now, if you have the fan base, that when they lose a game and a ball player sees their fan base taking their flags down, think about changing their color of their cars, whether it be blue or red, that doesn't make a player feel good at all, because I was one of the players that looked at that and I said, wait a minute, this is not right. You have to have a fan base that backs their team regardless whether they're losing 10 or winning 10. And that's the reason why Kentucky had it last year and they ran them all the way to the championship. And it's the same thing Kentucky and Louisville needs this year, the fan base to back them 100%. And don't be taking the flags down when your team loses. Flag on any sport, baseball, basketball, football, whatever it is.
Well, I think our fan bases.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say.
I don't think they jump off.
Not in basketball. I think you've seen fan bases bail on Louisville football under Cragthorpe and Kentucky football under Joker.
I always think that was good fans.
But
because you were making a statement. I don't even think they were. I think they were making a statement because they care that much about their team.
No, but I mean, I'm not saying that wasn't a deserved move to make, but I don't think in basketball you've seen these fan bases. I don't sense a lack of support at all, regardless of how much Kentucky struggles. There'll be more grumbling and everything else, but they could lose 6 more games, and I still think, I mean, Blue, especially coming off a national title, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah. All right. Hey, we'll get to the 3 callers on the line. I think we're taking more calls. 964-2121. You want to get on. We'll take them in our last segment coming up, the Sunday Sports Buzz presented by livingforless.org.
Sports Buzz will return after these messages from our sponsors.
All right, we're back. Sunday Sports Buzz presented by livingforless.org. It's almost midnight, so the Golden Globes are maybe almost over. Jennifer Lawrence won the Golden Globe Best Actress. Did you see that movie?
I've not seen it yet, but it's got sports gambling as one of the angles. I definitely want to.
It does. It does. You know what? She deserved it. She was incredible. It was a really good movie. The little plot's a little different in the beginning, and I'm like, I wonder if this will be very good. And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's good. It's worth your time. Worth your time. But Jennifer Lawrence wins the Golden Globe, and we have our own Oscar winner. You should get an award. Lachlan McClain.
I thought you were referring to the caller.
The most objective sports talk show host in town, Lachlan McClain, with us tonight, and Brad is up.
Hey guys, I had a question for you. I was wondering who you thought, if anybody in the country, could lose 6 players or 6 best players in 1 year, reload, and then come back in the next year, and really do any better than Kentucky's doing this year. And which of the starters do you think would actually be likely to stay for next year?
Well, I mean, yeah, if you're going to lose your 6 best players, most teams are not going to be ranked. And so Kentucky is where most teams would be, I guess, at this point. I guess you're looking at it that way. But if you systematically build your program so that you're going to lose your 6 best players, most programs don't do that. I mean, they try and have class balance. So on one hand, you're right. You can't do what Kentucky did, and it's blah, 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 but that's his whole mindset. And so it's kind of like, you're creating a quandary, and then you can't blame that for the position you're in. As far as the starters, look, Poitras is gone, Goodwin is gone, Noel is gone, and Cauley Stein is going to go. I mean, I think the only one is Harrow probably comes back, and then you wonder in the offseason what Wilcher does. So you're going to be in the same boat next year, just with slightly better recruiting class. Just hope for Kentucky fans' sake you have a better outcome.
Yeah, I think every year Kentucky's going to lose their top 6.
Yeah. Now they are, because they've run through the experience he inherited. If Wilcher were to stay, he eventually could be that experience. But again, and I'm not trying to start rumors or anything, but if you're him, why would you stay?
Even the NBA draft picks on the team now, if they stayed, their role would be maybe even diminished next year with that recruiting class. You could be a first-round pick this year, come back, and be less.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Be a second-round pick.
And the one thing, though, you got to, and a last thought on Kentucky. I mean, if they do all play their A game at the same time at the end of the year, they could. I mean, there's enough talent. We've seen it all individually. They could be a Final Four team. It doesn't seem that that's likely, but you can never dismiss it because that's what raw talent does.
Well, I'll tell you what, Kentucky fans are going to have a stress-free NCAA tournament as compared to how they normally are, and Louisville fans are going to be nervous, biting their nails every single game because the pressure's on the Cards, and Cats have zero pressure. And who knows, they might make Cal, he probably pull a run off, knowing him. But let's go to Bruce.
Yes, how you doing today?
Good.
Look, there's 2 things I want to say. First of all, I don't think Peyton Manning lost that game. I think that defense lost that game. They had 3 men rushing. They had a packed backfield. There was no way a wide receiver should have got behind any of those guys. If they had played their game like they supposed to have played it, that would have never been a 35-35 tie. Peyton Manning would have never done that stupid throw, and they've been out there and to be waiting right now to play the next game. That's number 1. Number 2, Kentucky fans, not Kentucky fans, Calipari. Calipari should be dancing to the jig right now because he finally got what he wants. I'm not talking about those one-and-dones. I'm talking about somebody who he can develop. In 2 or 3 years, he may have back-to-back Final Fours, back-to-back champions with people he has developed, the new classes coming in. But can he win? Can he develop players? Not the one-and-dones. Can he develop players?
Well, I'll tell you what, and like you speak to this, I mean, I think he did develop Harrelson quite a bit. I mean, I give him some credit for Harrelson's development. But he's not going to have these guys. There will be nobody to develop.
No, exactly. That's the thing. I mean, his recruiting classes at this point are so good that the NBA has decided to draft these guys the second before they set a foot in Lexington. That's why I have to laugh sometimes when Cal takes credit for creating millionaires. These guys were millionaires the second they stepped on campus. And don't tell me, no, Willie Cauley-Stein. You knew at the blue-white scrimmage that Willie Cauley-Stein was good enough to be a first-round NBA draft pick. So when it happens, I don't want to hear Cal fans saying, look, he developed him. That stuff's been obvious from day one. These guys were millionaires from the time they stepped on campus, and they always will be. So I'm sorry for the caller. It's not going to be reloading and developing talent. Who are the guys that have developed? He's had a year and a half with Kyle Wiltshire. How much better is he? He did his thing for Harrelson. Liggins played better, and he's done it for Harrow. But I still think the jury is out on him as a talent developer. And yes, his point, by the way, in the Broncos, Raheem Moore is much more responsible for that loss than Peyton Manning.
Play.
Horrible play. But, you know, that happened, and then it was on Peyton to make up for it, and he couldn't.
Absolutely. And if Denver gets 2 special teams touchdowns and still can't win the game, I mean, bad game for the Broncos.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm blaming, I'm going Moore, then I'm going John Fox, then I'm going Peyton Manning.
Champ Bailey's on that list.
Champ Bailey
too.
There's a lot of blame to go around now that you think about it.
All right, let's go to David.
Hey, Locke.
Hey,
I was just wondering on a personal note, how excited are you, hint, about Louisville joining your elite ACC now? You know that us Louisville fans are going to be giving you a lot of heat through the year, especially when Virginia plays Louisville. I didn't know if it's a double-edged sword for you, or how are you feeling about that?
No, it's a great point because I can no longer call myself the most objective host because I'm going to be lack of objective when Virginia's rolling against Louisville. Right now, they're scheduled to be the yearly crossover rival every year in football and home in basketball, and I can't wait. Good for Louisville to make the ACC.
Thanks.
All right. Hey, thanks, David. And I think we're running out of time. Are we running out of time, David? We're out of time. But, Locke, it was great again. I hope to have you back sometime in the near future. And make sure you listen to Sports Talk 84 with Lachlan McClain.